Hey, everybody. It is your good friend, the safety doc, Dr. David Proden from down here in the North Star Recording Studio. And it is a brisk 62 degrees down here. I have my thermal shirt on from the Baltimore Ravens, as you can probably see here behind the microphone. I forget which player wore this, but the name is ironed in the back of it. Get these from the NFL surplus place in Minnesota. And I have my lighting off today. So, wishing everybody well. It is going to warm up here. It's going to be in the 50s in the next few days. So it's like, whoa, Wisconsin, middle of December. And I grew up in northern Wisconsin. I remember a lot of snow and big snow drifts actually that would go just below the power lines. And that would start to happen about this time of year. So some housekeeping. Thank you for subscribing to the channel and for showing up. I appreciate Walter. Hey, Solitude. And people will be falling in hopefully here for the morning show. 880 subscribers as of today, which is up from 843 on December 7th. I have a little chart now. And every day I write down how many subs I have, how many viewed hours I have, because I need to have 1,000 subs. I need to have 1,000 viewed, or I need to have 4,000 viewed hours to be able to monetize. So I'm moving in the right direction. So on the 7th of December, I had 843 subs, 1,607 viewed hours. Today on the 10th, 880 subs, 1,679. So heading there. And part of that is because of Robert. So thank you, Robert. And welcome. So yeah, don't need the zero synthetic here at the moment because it is pretty balmy here for December. It's going to be, again, this week in the 40s and actually 1 or 2 days in the 50s. So yeah, it's, again, I grew up in northern Wisconsin. So this time of year, you're already battle hardened by 8 weeks of, snowstorms and ice and snow drifts and all of that. So this seems kind of like, whoa, that shortens down the winter because by usually the first week of April, it's weather's good enough to be out biking here. So hey, Robert, yeah, almost there with subscribers. So yes, looks like I will be hitting that 1,000 subscribers. And then for all of you listening, it's just continuing to watch the show or go back and find shows that might interest you and to watch those. I have 162 episodes of the Safety Doc podcast. All of those are available at Safety PhD. Everything is released in video, audio, and then also blog post. The audio is leveled, and then I put that over on Podbean. So obviously, if you're doing like a long trip or something, you can find a few things, but a number of interviews, though. So if you go on YouTube, I interviewed Larry Lawton, America's biggest jewel thief, Robert Travis, Alaskan crab boater. So those are all over there. Might be some interesting shows to go and look at. I recorded the show that will premiere Monday night. At my regular 8:15, I'm doing a 1-hour premiere. So it's a show I've already recorded, as I said yesterday, and rendered it. And then I'll be live in the chat. That show is about my experience working at the School for the Blind. So I worked there as a director of therapy services for about 4 years at the end of my administrative career. And it's top 10 questions that people would ask about what it's like to work at a School for the Blind. And amazing things that I had no idea coming into that position that would be part of that position. It was a highlight of my career to work there. So I've got 10 points I'm going to go through and tell you some things you didn't know. Like here's one thing. We actually had 2 students who received their driver's license so they could drive during the day. So you're like, how does that happen in a School for the Blind? So yeah, we will get into that and just some other things and how we did safety drills and things like that. So what is Face Validity? So it is Face Validity Friday. Face Validity is, again, you have that thermometer in front of you and you're looking at it and it says 88 degrees, but you are in the middle of a snowstorm and you're shivering and you're all covered with snow. And you're like, two things. Either the thermometer is broken, face validity, it's not measuring what it needs to measure, which is temperature, or else your senses are deceiving you. Something is wrong with you. Something is being distorted. So that is what face validity is all about. That's why we have Face Validity Friday. Face validity is a theme in my book, The Velocity of Information. So as we continue to go through, you'll just be more fluent in, as you mention this to people, but outside in your environment, as you see headlines, as you see things happening and stuff like that, you'll be like, I'm not sure this matches my face validity, or it doesn't. Like I had sassed one too many on the show Monday night on the Safety Doc, and he was talking about face validity things that were out of whack that he started to notice a few years ago. So that's really cool, right? To be able to use some of these terms like face validity in your everyday life and then share it with others. Take this and share it with others. And people will be like, oh my goodness, look at Robert. He not only knows everything about zero weight oil and engines, like here he's telling me all this face validity stuff. And it's actually pretty cool. Like I never thought of things this way of like, yeah, I always sensed there was something not right with whether it be the news or, something going on at stores or whatever it is. It's like, it doesn't match face validity. So I have 5 articles today that we will go through. And these are really spot on, right? So we have a couple where face validity will match and a few where they will be like, whoa, this is not matching face validity. To put these articles together actually takes me probably about 2 hours, even though it's 5 articles, because I go through so many news sources and to make sure that I can find a variety of articles. And so this does take quite a while every week, but I feel too, as I go through, like it just is sharpening. It's like iron on iron. It's just sharpening my face validity skills too. So let us get into the first one. The first one is a story from BREITBART. BREITBART. And the heading is poll. It's a poll. 75% of small businesses pounded by supply chain crisis and inflation. So 75% of small businesses pounded by supply chain crisis and inflation. Robert said, I love face validity. Awesome. Thanks, buddy. So yeah, so let's see here. Let me bring this up. All right. I'm going to get this article up over here for us. Okay. All right. No, I don't want to buy anything. Hey, thank you. Solitude Surfer said Doc does a really good job with all those shows. So yeah, the one I rendered yesterday for my Monday night premiere, I rendered it in the first time. Something got screwed up on the canvas, so it rendered in some weird format of like, 2,000 wide versus like 800 tall. So I was kind of like stretched out and things like this, and I was like, wow, I don't know what happened there. It's just crazy. So I had to go in and change it. And then I had to change it. Like everything in it got distorted. So I had to change all the headings, stuff like that. And I think I caught everything and then re-render it back to the normal 16:9. And then everything was fine, but I didn't have a chance to upload it last night. So I'll upload it today and just get it ready. So I guess that's good. I have a lot of overlays. I have different photos to provide context of what I'm talking about in that episode. But okay, so we have this BREITBART poll. So let me get it up on the screen right now. And here we go. Okay, so BREITBART poll, 75% of small businesses pounded by the small chain or the supply chain crisis. And right here, they're like, oh my God, look at this. The doc is almost up to 1,000 subs. And she's like, who? Is he going to get monetized? And this guy's like, that'd be a great thing. And then he's like clicking right there. He's like, I'm going to click through and get a couple of these videos on and see what's happening here in the Safety Doc podcast. I'm like, all right. So, yeah. this is the deal. So let's go. 75% of small businesses are being pounded by the supply chain crisis and a 30-year high inflation, a CNBC survey revealed Tuesday. First of all, what do we say about surveys? Surveys are often pretty weak. So surveys don't have a high level of accuracy. Even if they tell you, they're like, yeah, this survey here, like, it's got whatever plus or minus accuracy. That's all, largely a lie. So so anyway, we'll take this with a grain of salt, right? Whenever you see surveys versus like looking at data of businesses reporting how many people that they have working, or whatever the hardcore stuff. So anyway, while let's go back to this. While many big businesses have expanded their profit margins in the face of supply chain woes, small businesses are struggling to serve their local communities. And then there's this thing right here. But anyway, Biden's policies of paying individuals not to work enhance benefits, along with waging a war on American energy markets, caused Main Street to incur larger supply chain and disruptions. So let's just take a look at this. So our headline, so what we're trying to do here with our headline is, does this have a face validity sense to it? So if I'm telling you this, Robert, Solitude, and does this make sense to you? Is this measuring what's happening out there? Would you say 75% of small businesses are pounded by the supply chain crisis? So here's what I did to check my face validity on this. And let me go over here. What I did is I went through my town, and my downtown area has more than 50% of the storefronts have the big for lease sign, and they've been there for a long time. So the only thing, like, the stuff new downtown was like a small coffee shop, which those just don't seem to stick. And then a photography place, but then it also had a sign on the door that said, like, call us and we can schedule like an appointment. So it wasn't like people there. And you don't know how much of this stuff is temporarily subsidized. Like a store owner is like, well, this has been empty for a year, so I'll give somebody, a month or two rent free to try to get them in here. And then obviously if they're in here, there's some sticking power, because for them to, like, take down everything that they've put into the building and stuff like that is less, they're going to have more incentive to try to make rent, right? But anyway, more than half of my downtown for lease. Then I went to the two newer, which have been built in the last 2 years. I don't know if you really call it a mini mall. I don't know what these are called. If you know what it is, please put it down. But it's where you basically you build, it's like a 4-store complex. So and they're not really big. So the one in my town has an Arby's, and then it has 3 other vacant storefronts. And it's all one building. It was built 2 years ago. And so the Arby's is occupied, right? That's the main tenant right there. But the other 3 are empty. They've never been occupied. So those are also for lease. So not only are we losing small businesses, we've lost in my town a small optometrist who said, yeah, the supply chain, essential, non-essential, and things like that. Just, it was time to shut down. Lost the window place, the small window repair company, and then dry cleaner, restaurant. So they're pounded by supply chain. That's part of it. Like, these are mostly kind of service also industries. So I don't know if it's supply chain as much as it's inflation. And then it's also the policy stuff, right? If you're small, okay, and suddenly you can be essential or non-essential, and that's a big risk for these places, just because. And also the trend, not supply chain, is a trend, right? People are shopping online. So this has some face validity in that small businesses are being pounded, but it's not so much a supply chain. I think it's a change in the way that people are shopping. And then it's also the whole essential versus non-essential thing, and also inflation, I guess, try to get in place. So we'll give this one kind of a 50-50. And anytime again you see where it starts out and it says per a survey, like right away, that's got big problems with it. I wrote about it right here. I know, Robert, you're thinking of getting this book, and today's your day because it's available on Amazon and places that sell books. But I had 7 reasons, and they're laid out very clearly of like either why to not do surveys, or if you do surveys, you have to fully understand the limitations of surveys and how then to do other checks to make sure that your surveys are giving you accurate information. They can be like one part, but there's other things you have to do. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of surveys. When I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, one of my profs was a stats guy, and he retired out of, I think, Nabisco. And he was giving the whole scoop on like surveys. Great guy. And he's like, yeah, surveys, here's the problem. You don't know how people on the other end are interpreting it. You don't know their background, if they're familiar with the product, if they're or not. You can't ask clarifying questions. So he's like, here's reasons why. We would do is we'd put a survey together, and we thought like it would be pretty spot on. And we'd realize it was crazy. It didn't make any sense. It didn't match what was happening. So anyway, face validity, if someone is measuring face validity with a survey, that's not nearly as good as saying I observed, right? What I just said in my local example here is I observed more than half the businesses downtown for lease, new mini malls not having occupants. But again, then we ask these questions of, is it supply chain necessarily, or is it that people are just kind of shopping online? So in, these, again, 2 years, those mini malls have been empty. That was before the start of COVID. So that's happened. These have been empty for a while. So kind of a face validity, but I'm kind of going like, nope. Let's go to number 2. And let's see. Robert put, I see this every day at my oil change. Let me do this. Bring it up here. Good. Robert said, I see this every day at my oil change shop. Perfect example. We normally get multiples of oil of all filters. Yesterday, we were lucky to get one box with an assortment of filters, 1 of 2 of each. Okay, good. So Robert, what you're observing, and thank you so much, is saying that for you, there is a supply chain issue that is impacting you, right? So this is great to share. And can you put down either the state or the region you're in, just so we kind of, can kind of get that. So Robert is what I would call a part of a member check network. So let's say that, I have 5 people that I'm checking in with twice a week, and Robert is one of those people. And I wrote about this also in the Velocity of Information. I had a member check network. I interviewed Joe Dolio, who had a member check network of people he was regularly checking in with, who lived in different areas, had different jobs, different careers. So they were interfacing at different ways with things like how stores are open or stores are closed, and availability of things, and where your hospital's not doing elective surgeries and stuff like that. So right now, like if Robert is telling me this, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like I want to make sure that I am scheduling out an oil change well in advance, to a couple of weeks, right? Because if I go in and, if I'm running right up to the, 3,000-4,000 miles or something, and suddenly they're like, nope, we don't have your filters here, and the one for your vehicle, so it's going to be a couple weeks. Be like, whoa, like I've got all this, I have stuff planned, and so plan ahead and get those appointments. Okay, that's helpful. Thanks, Robert. Number 2. So this is a strange one. Number 2 is from Yahoo News, and it is titled Switzerland Approves Assisted Suicide Capsule. So, yeah, And it's interesting because I've seen people who have posted about these things, and they don't know what they they don't know what they are. So they're like, oh, it's like this, space thing or this, you know. But anyway, let's bring this one up right now. So Switzerland approves a assisted suicide capsule. There it is, and let me get this a little bigger over here. Whoa. So there we go. All right. Switzerland. So there you are at the countryside in Switzerland. And this is an assisted suicide capsule. Kind of looks like the capsule that they shot Spock out of at the end of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. So that was a sad moment. So yeah, Switzerland has just legalized a new way to die by assisted suicide. The country's medical review board has authorized the use of the Sarco Suicide Pod, which is a 3D printed portable coffin. Like, remember, everything's going to go 3D printed. It's crazy. Well, here, this is 3D printed. So I was reading an article last night that said, are we moving really rapidly to this like micro business or micro localized business of 3D printing, which I got at in the book, The Velocity of Information? Not quite to that level. It's moving even faster than what I wrote about. So anyway, here's this 3D printed assisted suicide living capsule. So the thought with this thing is you can put it anywhere. You can put it at a beach, out in I guess here somebody's farmland. And wherever you want to put this. And then the person goes inside of it, and then they have to answer a number of questions, which who knows what this is? Are you sure? And whatever, and things like that. So this is done, obviously there's some ahead of time planning in here. It seems like an end of life thing. And what happens then is the nitrogen. So the person then presses. They have pre-recorded questions. Once inside, the person intending to end their life will answer pre-recorded questions. Press a button. It'll start the process of flooding the interior with nitrogen, which quickly reduces oxygen from 21 to 1% the person. It basically kind of feels disoriented, euphoric, and then it seems like they just basically kind of pass out. So it says there's no choking, no panic. They just, I guess, kind of go to sleep, right? A permanent sleep. So anyway, let's take a look. First of all, that is just creepy, isn't it? Hey, it is Dark. DLD. So yeah, man. Hey, Dark. Welcome, buddy. So hopefully you won't be 3D printing any of these capsules and selling them, because this is pretty gruesome stuff, man. So yeah, man. It's wild. So let's see here. And there we go. Yeah. So Dark said almost 900. Yeah. 880 subs. And I have 1,679 view hours. I need 4,000, but I'm up 70 view hours in the last 3 days. So keep watching the shows. So here's this assisted living pod. It is 3D printed. So Dark, yes, this is actually a 3D printed death chamber. That's true. And so let's look at the title. Okay, this is by Barbie Latza-Nadeau. Monday, December 6th, Switzerland approves assisted living capsule. So as you read through this, right, it is a little fuzzy on, is this specifically an end of life device? So from a headline, right, it's an object from Face Validity. The headline is accurate. Okay. It is an approved assisted suicide capsule. So Face Validity, that matches. Now, as you get into it, though, what is less clear is this specifically for people who are at the end of life? So you're on hospice, you have some terminal condition or whatever it would be. Is that the case? Or what else is going on? I don't know. First of all, it was the cartoon Futurama, I think, on Comedy Central. In 1999, they had these things called suicide booths that looked similar to this, but they were upright, like a telephone booth. And, so that's 20 years ago. They were kind of, or 30 years or 20 years ago, right? They were already kind of projecting that these things would be happening. And in the show, it was in the year 3000, not the year 2021. So from a face validity standpoint, okay, the article headline and the article matches. What the article's missing is this again for when there's body failure, when there's a terminal illness, or is there going to be an option for this? And would that include somebody who is depressed, right? Someone who is massively in debt, or someone. I talked about essential versus non-essential in my book, The Velocity of Information. Is it that we get to some point where people feel they're unessential, right? They're not connected into society, into church, into friends, and they're just like, I don't want to live they just say, I don't want to live anymore. Will they be able to have an approval from a doctor? Maybe this is somebody who's 28 years old, right? And otherwise physically healthy. Would they be able, under, through this capsule, through corresponding law, to access the capsule and end their life? I mean, what would that consist of? So this is an article that has the headline's accurate, and it doesn't go any deeper, and it doesn't kind of explore some of those things that are definitely now the questions that we would be asking of, like, well, who uses this? And is it only restricted for where a physician would say, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, you're in a hospice type situation. But again, will we see Switzerland or some country have some set of conditions where if you get 2 doctors to sign off or whatever, that you could say, I want to use this capsule to end my life? And then you would be, again, you could be a young you could have no medical conditions that would, indicate that you're not going to be able to continue to live, right? Other than making this decision. So it's pretty scary stuff. And again, now it's like the technology's there, and this article leaves out like policy and some of those things, but I don't think it was intended to do that. So face validity, I think the article just puts it out there. Here it is. And then it's kind of that weird image, right? Hey, like, what's that over in your field? Hey, Dark, what's that in your backyard there? That somebody 3D printed this. So you're going to see, and people they rent these, and then they'll rent like locations. I mean, there'll be this whole industry that will go with this. So people saying, I want my last moments to be on a beach. So there'll be some company then that will rent some space, some beachfront, and then they'll take your pod out. I mean, this whole thing is just weird. So anyway, whoa, I don't know. So hey, we are up to 6 watchers. So thanks. This is different than that one a few weeks ago when we had 1,300 watching. So DLD says, oh, nothing, just my additive manufactured death basket. So yeah, this is out there, and I think, some country, right, or some group of physicians will go ahead and do this. I mean, it won't be in the US, but it'll be somewhere. And I don't know. So that was from Yahoo News. Article number 3 is from jonathanturley.org, who apparently is a person plus also his own news outlet. So Jonathan Turley. And before we get to Jonathan Turley, we are going to get over here to please subscribe and smash that thumbs up button. Thanks for the getting up to 880 subs. Just 3 days ago, it was at 843. So the the show continues to grow, up another 70 view hours. So the goal here is 1,000 subscribers by Christmas, and I think we're going to get there. And then our second goal is to get 4,000 viewed hours of the show. It is kind of low right now because I did have the hiatus on the show when I was writing the Velocity of Information, but all that is behind me and the show's in front of me. So let's keep that going. Thank you, everybody. JonathanTurley.org wrote, "The Loki Effect," this is the headline, LOKI, the Loki Effect, how crime became the latest crisis blamed on the pandemic. So let us bring up the Loki Effect, which I didn't know what this was. I was like, what? The Loki Effect. So yeah, okay. The Loki Effect, which is pretty cool. Like, I would talk about this now. I would let people, I think, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, so the Loki Effect. What is the Loki Effect? How crime became the latest crisis blamed on the pandemic. So basically, what it's saying in the article is so the Loki Effect is trying to blame a lot of things on one event. So let's see here. All right. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Let us read. Crime is raging across the country, from violent attacks to brazen shoplifting and smash and grab attacks. The White House this week had a simple answer for the cause of the rising lawlessness. It was defund the police efforts. It was not defund the police efforts, excuse me, or more restrictive policies for police and prosecutors. It was a familiar scourge cited in debates ranging from infrastructure to supply chain, the pandemic. So basically, the Loki Effect is just like trying to blame everything on one on one thing that isn't a person. You can't nail it down, right? You can just say, oh, it's because of the, or it's because of the cold weather, right? And it's because of the Earth's magnetic poles or whatever it is, because of sun flares. So that's why, yeah, whatever. So the Loki Effect is basically this cop out, right? Of just saying, hey, we're going to blame it on, we're blame it on this. And of course, it's not a person, so the pandemic's not going to respond back with its own editorial saying, you got to be kidding me. Do you know that over in Switzerland, they're 3D printing death baskets right now? And then the pandemic's going to try to have DLD on its show. So hey, it's all pro Lemonton. So hey, all pro Lemonton, welcome. So Solitude Surfer, Loki's a time traveler. Yes, he's also a time traveler, I think. All pro Lemonton, the news says everything's due to the pandemic. Yep. So this is face validity, the Loki Effect, how crime became the crisis blamed on the pandemic. So from a face validity standpoint, this article is accurate, right? It's saying that here's what people are from government, to companies and whatever, they're blaming the pandemic. There's a lot of companies right now that are doing the what's called a force majeure, or they're saying we can't meet our obligations and contracts. So because of the pandemic, it's an act of God, and then they get out of the contract. So it's part of contract language, force majeure. And let me write. I wrote about force majeure in the Velocity of Information, and there are big companies that are doing this right now. I think one was Cisco Foods saying, "Hey, we can't meet what our companies have ordered from us in our restaurants and things like that because supply chains, we can't get the drivers and whatever." So anyway, force majeure. So yes, this is an accurate face validity headline, this article. The part though that's not face validity is when someone comes into you and says, oh yeah, the crime in San Francisco, the smash and grab, or in Minneapolis or XYZ city or whatever, that's due to the pandemic. And then you're watching and you're like, I'm not sure that's due to the pandemic. First of all, that's pretty organized, and um, that seems to be organized crime. That seems to be because people aren't getting prosecuted, um, and also that we have less police. So I think that is policy, and also like that was happening prior to this too. It just didn't suddenly happen, but it's exacerbated because of these policies that have been put in and thinning of uh, police forces and stuff like that. So that would be a face validity thing, right? Like someone goes to you and says, "Oh, hey, face validity." Um, that yeah, crime is going up in these San Francisco, right, in these big cities. And I have friends, Juan who lives in San Francisco, right, who's often in the show. Um, and it's because of the pandemic. They're like, nope, no, it's not. It's not. I actually have friends who, yeah, in law enforcement study, this former friends who were in jail and in prison, and they've said, no, 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 come on, that's not face validity. Face validity is, if you're not prosecuting these things, I mean, then and people can walk in and walk out with stuff. Then what's the incentive otherwise, other than the social contract to follow the rules? So here is one from our good buddy, a Swamp Dog Armory. Hey, Swamp Dog Armory. I nearly needed to contact you for an emergency consult on a video which was not rendering properly for me in my Camtasia. So, for those of you who are wondering what Camtasia is, it's the Stone Age, it's the Mayan version of editing software. It requires several stones, chocolate, things like that, running water. But my Camtasia, for some reason, I goofed up with the canvas on it, I guess. And when I rendered the video, which will air Monday night, a premiere, it rendered in this really bizarre stretched format, So everything was very wide and then narrow on the screen. And it's like, I've never seen this before, and I couldn't figure it out. And I went and I had to do some tutorials. Finally, like somebody said, like, hey, if this happens, this is probably what you did. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I went in and had to like manually change everything, then like all the graphics and convert everything back. And I think I got it. Like I think I've got it fixed, but I don't know. That's the problem. Like when I do live streams, so the Safety Doc podcast, so this is Face Validity Friday, which is different, but the Safety Doc podcast, so the first maybe 100 of those were all pre-recorded, or I interviewed people and then I would render and they were always 60 minutes because they were syndicated on the 405 Media radio station. So everything was 60 minutes but when I started to do live streams, like a year ago, then I kind of lost my editing skills. So I needed to go back in and kind of relearn that. And it's been it's kind of coming back. It's like, I guess, riding a bike, you don't lose it, but yeah, that's why, every month one of my videos will probably be a premiere, just because I need to maintain those editing skills. So I almost have a little checklist here. Level audio, do this, make sure everything renders out at 16:9 and stuff like that. So let's go over here in the chat. So anyway, the article headline here, this is from Jonathan Turley. So thank you, jonathanturley.org. And the headline is accurate. The Loki Effect, how crime became the latest crisis blamed on the pandemic. Face validity, he's right on with this. Now, if somebody tells you, right, that, oh, crime is due to the pandemic, and they're not telling you about, hey, this Loki Effect, or just saying that's the way it is, then that isn't face validity, right? Face validity is, well, we know people aren't being prosecuted. If things are under $1,000, for example, police aren't being assigned to these areas. And anyway, so this was a good one, though. I didn't know about the Loki Effect. And I will use this, and I will actually talk about this. And I don't know. So I got to look more on this Loki. Yeah, because he's some type of mythical god. So basically, by the way, Loki is a mythical god who is blamed for everything that goes wrong. So know this now for you for the rest of your day and rest of your life. Something goes wrong, air conditioner goes out. It's the Loki effect. It's the Loki did it. The god of, Loki god. Loki god. Thanks, Loki god. Bottom of my coffee cup falls out here. Thanks, Loki god. So it's an old mythical thing. Um, yeah. So that's the deal. It is it's the Loki stuff. And the Norse, it's a Norse god. They call him the trickster Loki. So, and if DLD met Loki, he'd be like, "Hey Loki, how's it going? I 3D printed this pot in my backyard." And Loki'd be like, what? No bad luck for you, DLD, only good luck. By the way, I have a little coffee story to share this morning. So, and thanks for everybody following in. And then I'm going to come over to the chat. So, so my coffee story is there's a gas station, not far from my house. I guess I could walk to it, but the coffee would be cold by the time I get back. There's a little slick, by the way, on those roads this morning. So anyway, on Friday mornings, I grab a coffee and some donuts. Yeah. And there was a lady in there, and she was like, the donut case was virtually wiped out. I ended up with like 3 bad donuts I normally would have never taken. You're like, 3 donuts? I don't know. Okay. And then she was filling up coffee cups, right? And she had all these, like the 4 holders, this whole row of these things. And I'm like, you're destroying it for everybody. Like everybody who comes in here, you've just wiped out everything. Like, I know you probably have some event at work or whatever, or but isn't there, wouldn't there be a process? Like if I was doing that, I would let people know ahead of time, like at the store or something like that. I'd be like, hey, like I'm going to come in and can I like pre-order or get some of these things ready? But other people are kind of looking at her like, hey, thanks for wiping out like 90% of the coffee. Thankfully, like this, my Kona roast was still there, still trickling out, but I don't know. It's just weird. I'm just like, come on. Unless you absolutely got pressed into that, like somebody called you this morning and say, hey, remember, it's like, it's the Friday and this is your day to bring in breakfast. She's like, what? Back to the office? Oh God. And then she stops in and gets this. So anyway, I wasn't thrilled. I didn't think it was classy. I was not a fan of that. DLD wrote, those death cocoons are pretty chilling. They want us to start disappearing. Makes you think about things that have become popular as well. So yeah, DLD has a great point on this, right? When you see headlines like this, and then the article is very objective. It's not positional like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody would think about this. This is so horrible. We have to do more for agency and purpose of people. No, that wasn't the article. The article was basically saying, here's what these are. Here's how they propose using them. And, the more of the details, how it works, like the nitrogen level increases and stuff like that. So another reason, right, Robert, to not put nitrogen in your car tires. But yeah, so DLD has a great point. When these articles come out and you're reading it, a face validity point, this DLD caught this, I missed this, but the DLD or the face validity point here is to get you to take an initial shock effect off. Because now most people reading that, I don't think they're having this like recoil shock. It's kind of like, ooh, well, that's bizarre science-y type stuff, but they're not in a recoil like, oh my God, this is horrible. Like we shouldn't have this, or maybe just in a handful of circumstances, but the articles seem to be talking about normalizing that, right? And we go back to the 1999 episode, and it was Futurama. And I don't know if you've seen that one with Bender and all of that stuff is cartoon on, I think it's Comedy Central, but they had an episode that was very similar to this, like predicting what it would be like in the year 3000. So this is from Swamp Dog, giving a shout out to Dark. Hey, Jim, thanks for following in. The incessant seeking of peaceful slavery has led us to this point. Yes. Yeah, it is. When we sit down and we've got the headlines, now we're thinking, and we get back and we start to think behind the headlines. It's like, whoa, what is actually happening here? Jim wrote, people talk about the social contract as if it exists. So when I wrote about the social contract in School of Airs, I wrote about Hobbes' Leviathan. So Hobbes was an Englishman back, I think, in the 16th century, and also a philosopher. He wrote his stuff later in life too. I think it was like 60s, 70s, 80s when he was writing this stuff. And he wrote about what was called Hobbes' Leviathan. And actually, there's really great artwork for that. And I think it's in the public domain. But Leviathan, if you had that on a t-shirt, like it'd look pretty wicked. Hobbes' Leviathan. Well, I may as well write the whole thing here. You're like, thanks, Dave. What was the first part of it? Like Hobbes Leviathan. Okay. And he was basically saying people want some social contract, but a very, very minimal social contract. Like that's it. And when it gets more than that, then these systems, people try to like gain more power over other people and whatever. And eventually then it gets too big and too much of a conglomerate. And this is back in the 1600s, talking about this, like in England. And then people are like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And, you have a lot of fighting. So he's like, that's the balance, right? Of how do you get a little bit of social contract, which is kind of like, your social contract of we've got a fire department, we've got a police department, we've got a city works department, people will pick up the garbage and do the roads, stuff like that. How do we keep those types of things and, somewhat of a military, right? Without then getting into boom, like all these other social programs and government mandates and restrictions and things like that. So, but yeah, as of today, like Jim, you're right on. Is there a social contract? Man, I don't, I don't know if it is. Like we've all signed a contract with a lot of tiny print on it, kind of like Willy Wonka in a chocolate factory before they can go in. So this is indemnification only between friends. So Swamp Dog, you be good. You all be good. Got to get back to cutting. Oh, Swamp Dog's leaving us. All right, but thanks for stopping in, Swamp Dog. Appreciate it, buddy. Let's go. Hey, let's keep going with the chat before, and then we'll get over to our next article here. So, yeah, it's a pretty good system. I have 3 monitors in front of me, so people are like, "Why are you looking over there?" And I wish I had 6 monitors. The next time I build a new computer, or I have a new computer system built, I am going to go 6 monitors and just I'll stack them. Because even though I have 3, like this is never enough. So especially when I do consulting or university stuff, it's just then I usually have to have my laptop over here, stuff like that. So it's quite a setup down here. I think I've posted pictures of it now and then. Upgrade at the office. By the way, I have wall art arriving today for my new book. The cover of my book I had made into basically like a 3x4 wall art print, and I had one for my other book, and so this one will match it. And anyway, it's kind of cool. Like it said, it's arriving today, so we'll see if they bang the hell out of it. And I don't know. So, hey, Chris is black. Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. So yeah, and the Eggerizer is here. So, appreciate you being here. All right. So thanks, Eggerizer. So, Swamp Dog wrote, I'll be free this evening, Doc. We can have that video conference call you mentioned. So I need to figure this out. And for anybody too, I need to know a little bit more between Findaway Voices and ACX. And it is specific to my book, The Velocity of Information. With the audio book that's one thing as the author with my publisher. The publisher um, is, has control of setting the price on the velocity of information. So like if you go online and look, like the hard copy is pretty expensive. And that's because they sell the hard copies to universities as instructional text, and to libraries, and hard copies have a long lifespan. And then, but paperback, I think, is like 30, 35. I know you probably think that's a lot, but it's a robust book with a lot of artwork, a full index. And I can tell you, like, I don't get much, I don't get much royalty off of the books. But it is when you go with a large scholarly press, typically the books are more, and ebooks. So that's one of those things I'm like, that's a lot cheaper than going to, you go to one professional sports game or one college game, that's less than your ticket, right? So, and it's a good investment for life. But anyway, I need to know a little bit more about audio, because I have to make a choice between ACX and Findaway for distribution. So if you have some experience with that, please post and let me know, because I like to talk with you on that audiobook version. So, all right, Jim, I was never presented this document to read, understand the sign, etc. Yeah, it was interesting, Jim, with the Patriot Act, when it was reauthorized, I don't know, like 4 years ago or something. It there was a lot of stuff that changed in the Patriot. I don't know all of it, but I knew some of it at the time. And it literally was, when it was on the evening news, it was 15 seconds. They're saying like, and today, Congress reauthorized the Patriot Act. And it's like, whoa, okay, so what does that really mean? And Jim wrote, the lockdowns increased turmoil and strife. Yeah, it certainly seems like that. And so, yeah, I mean, the trickster. So Loki, the trickster. I love that. Like, I would have never kind of done this. I'm going to use the Loki thing. So, yeah, I actually, damn it, I would have used it in the book. Got great stuff in there, but I would have used Loki. And I didn't even know about that. How do you not know? How do you get to be my age and not know about a Loki? So, I don't know. It's so weird. So yeah, the Loki, you can blame everything on the Loki. So it used to be, hey, the couch farted. And now it's like, no, it was the Loki. So what if the Loki's sitting on the couch? That becomes a dilemma. The devil made me do it. Yep. Murphy's Law. Walter is saying hello, Doggy. Walter. Thanks for being here. Donuts are like sex. Even a bad donut is pretty damn good. So I'll tell you though, the donuts today, none of them were good. So, and it was mismarketing because the donuts I got were supposed to have the filling inside. Well, I suppose the filling would belong inside, not on the outside, but and they weren't. They were just plain. And I think this lady like moved the donuts around, so she got a better deal than on her donuts, because I know how that setup is. Like, I've been here 20 years, and that probably wasn't a worker, because it's usually is like the same people in there. So I'm like, so the whole thing was just as a bad morning, except I did get the coffee, what I needed. So. Jim wrote, the agreed away gas station switched from bun style coffee makers to individually brewed coffee. It's slower, probably more expensive. Interesting. I don't know how I'd feel about that. I kind of like I like the big, the bun style ones. And I also like it when they get down a little bit after they've been sitting for a while. You can see the timer, because I kind of like the older coffee. I think it just has more flavor, more dripping coming down out of the coffee grinds. I used to make coffee when I was commuting to work. Like, I would make the absolute strongest. I mean, like, it was amazing stuff. Yeah. So kind of miss that. Like, that just wasn't like rocket fuel for your brain. So, so let's get in here to, Carl. Hey, Carl. Welcome, buddy. Our good friend, Carl. So let's do this. Carl, one more time. If you don't share my values, then you aren't my community, my town, my state, my nation. Yeah. So that's we don't have debate anymore, and that's Larry Lawton, America's Biggest Jewel Thief, was talking about on my show and talks about frequently. Is we've gotten so far from that. There is no trying to understand another perspective or just recognizing that another perspective exists. What people do is they actually start to say now it's a microaggression, right? Or you're contributing to a hostile work environment because your views are different. I know somebody, this is true. I know somebody who was contacted by HR and brought in, at least this was their story. And they were questioned about contributing to a hostile work environment because they didn't greet other people and say hi and stuff as they were coming into the building. And the person's like, I don't, I think I do that, but generally I come in and I go to my area and I work, and I'm not yelling. I'm not angry. Yeah, one person apparently had gone to HR with this complaint. So imagine that you get brought in, you're not friendly enough, and that contributes to a hostile work environment. And you're like, what? So, hey, Solitude Surfer is giving a shout out to the Agorizer, saying you rock. All right, guys, good. Jim, we agree. Problem is when money has no value and the number only means mandatory overtime, then why bother? Yeah, that's right on. Carl, don't even get me into the Patriot. I almost quit on 2001, 2002 order that I would not hold my scientists guilty before innocent. So, and Doc, watch out for Loki. So let's go. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. That is greatly appreciate it. And yeah, 880 subscribers, and we are doing great here on the show. So let's get back to another article. We just got done with our death pods. All right, so this is number 3. It's from neonnettle.com. DC authorities offer advice to avoid carjacking. Give up your car. So let's bring up this one. It's redirecting me. All right. Okay, so let's get this a little larger over. Okay, so here it is. This is from Neon Nettle. DC authorities offer advice to avoid carjacking. Give up your car. One tip was don't argue in the event of a carjacker issuing a threat, by Daniel Newton, December 7th. So that doesn't, well, you're not sure what's going on here. So gunman here is pointing off screen. All right. So yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. But anyway, so let's look at this at face validity. DC authorities offer advice to avoid carjacking, give up your car. So the thing is, they're talking about this, and here's a gas station, right? So this article gets into where this can happen anywhere, but also, and they're telling people to drive in the center. So here they are, drive in the center lane. It makes it harder for potential carjackers. All right. But what is this, right? This is a gas station, right? So how in the world, from face validity 1 is, okay, we're not going to try to make things safer. That's not the campaign here. It's basically saying if somebody wants your car, just give it to them. So from a face validity standpoint, the DC authorities, this is garbage, right? This is complete garbage. It is just junk. And then also from a face validity standpoint, how would you ever fill up your car with gas? And they're telling you, like, stay inside your car, lock the doors and things like, well, I mean, you have to get out of your car to fill it up with gas, right? So the moment you exit the vehicle, you're cooked. And then someone comes up to you, you're done. So what is, this doesn't make any sense from face validity. This is nuts. So this whole thing is, and it's pointing out kind of the ridiculous nature of this, but what the DC authorities are saying, like drive in the center lane and, keep your doors locked, stuff like that. Again, they're showing, they get in here by gas station. I don't know what's going on there. That doesn't look good. Park in a well-lit area. I mean, these are, again, when you state the obvious, and as a government agency, the D.C. authorities, park in a well-lit area. Okay. Avoid parking your dumpsters, large vans or trucks, woods, or anything else that limits your visibility. Oh, come on. Like, this is part of driving, right? It's part of like going places. Never leave valuables in plain sight, even the cars, of course, right? Try to park in a garage with an attendant. Try to park in the parking lot at the police station. That might help you. So, even if you're rushed, look around. Always trust your instincts. So basically, again, and here we go. Remember the Loki effect. The Biden and White House continues to largely attribute the nationwide crime wave to the pandemic, the Loki effect. So I got it. What is happening here? This doesn't look good. Ouch. So there's something. So I've been thinking about this article and also thinking about this picture. And here's something from Face Validity that I think we're going to start seeing. So I'm asking people, and if you ever see this, let me know. But I think we will have within the next in 2022, there will be apps where you can get your fuel for your vehicle delivered either right to your vehicle, or you can coordinate a pickup spot where there'll be a fuel truck, right? And there'll have to be some regulatory things that kind of have to fall into place for this. But for example, like farmers, farmers don't bring the tractor into town and put it at the gas station. The fuel gets delivered, and there will be let's mark this show. I believe in 2022, and let me know if you see this again in your area. You will see this advertised, or you'll see an app, and it'll say, "Hey, don't risk getting carjacked, at the gas station or whatever. Schedule your fuel delivery. We can come to your house. We can meet you at, an area, like they would have a well-lit area, not by a woods. And they'll fill up your gas, and there'll be a surcharge of, $12 or a minimum of whatever for the first 20 gallons or something like that. That'll be a business. That will be a business in 2022. And, it could even be more than that, right? And if you market it, and if you use articles like this, and if you market it and say, why take the risk? It's not a convenience thing, right? This isn't about convenience. It's saying, why take the risk of your life, losing your vehicle and deductible and all the hassle and stuff like that. We'll come to you. Or maybe it's $20, right? It'll all be app and stuff like that. So I think there's going to be this whole secondary industry starting off of this, where people, isn't it weird? Like, and maybe, and what does this mean then for if you have an electric vehicle and you have to go to one of these charging stations where it takes you more time, that your vehicle is going to be there, right? And not in motion. Because obviously this article is saying if your vehicle's in motion, it's probably your best plan. So anyway, DC authorities offer advice for carjacking. Just give up your car. Oh my goodness. This is one tip: don't argue. So it's just so out of touch with reality. I mean, what's the next thing? It's just crazy. So let's go. We have two more. We have one from Fox News, and then we'll come back to the chat. Fox News. Governor Newsom leaves California amid crisis for a book tour. So, hey, Governor Newsom, congratulations on your book. I know what that's like. Kind of, because my book is actually researched in 471 endnotes and took me 3,000 hours. And you wrote a kid's book called Ben and Emma's Big Hit. and which is about a Newsom's experience growing up with dyslexia, and tells the story of Ben, a young boy and a baseball fan who uses America as pastime to cope with his learning disability. So this is a co-written book, by the way, a short kids book. So anyway, Newsom leaves California mid-crisis for a book tour. From face validity, this is clearly somebody just escaping, right? This is someone taking a easy way to distance himself from the job they should be doing, which this article says, people holding people accountable. And what he did here is Newsom told mayors, hey, step up and hold people accountable. By the way, I'm like doing my kids' book tour, which I co-wrote, and I'm going to be in other states and spending time away promoting my book. This is leaving while Rome is burning, right? So this is complete garbage. At face validity, anybody, this is, looking at this, and especially now, I mean, the crime spiking and before the holidays, and you're doing this book tour, right? So clearly this is escape. From face validity, this shows someone that doesn't want to take responsibility. And let me tell you something else about, writing books. We have so many politicians, right? They get these book deals, and that's just money being passed on, right? I mean, they usually don't write the books, and they just, there's, you can go down the line and look at politicians who've got these big book deals. And then, they're always bought up, and it's kind of a way to pass money. And, so that happens. And then these book tours are also a way to escape your job. So again, like for the doc here, that's not the case. This, like School of Airs and everything that I've done is an actual researched, written book. So that has a index and all of that stuff is not a nonfiction kids book right here. School of Airs of Last of Information. And if there's the book tours or events that go with that, aren't these vacations away from anything. But so I wrote down a couple things of face validity. If you see this, right? So you see this headline, you're thinking one reaction could be, well, good for him, like he's able to do this. I don't know whose reaction that would be, but it's not mine. But he's fleeing his responsibilities. And it's very common in politics and education to have people do this with books, like that they're going to go either that or a speaking tour or a commencement tour, right? I think it was Janet Yellen of the Fed, like, in that semester, she's always gone presenting for big fees for universities, giving, the keynote address at a graduation. But these are, it's okay to do that periodically when you're in these leadership roles. But when you're in those roles, you need to be doing the job and not going off and doing these other things. So I had some people, and let me tell you what this looked like in education. So when I ended my career in school administration, it was very common. So this, back about 5-10 years ago, very, very common for school administrators to be gone 30 to 50 days a year at conferences or visiting another country to learn about their education process and stuff like that. And that was all garbage. Like that was garbage. And you need to be there doing your job. Yes, I mean, there are times you need to be away for professional development conferences in person. A lot of this stuff can be done either by, Zoom or stuff like this. Anyway, but what was it, like that climate change thing where then they showed the airport where everybody flew in with their private planes? But this stuff is absolute garbage. People fleeing their responsibilities. So if you're like, this is holding people accountable, especially in organizations and things like that, when people are like, I'm going to go do this. So I call it out as a school administrator. We had somebody in the organization. Well, we had a couple administrators who were like, I'm going down to Arizona for some conference on how groups can work better together. And then there's another part of that in 2 months. They'll be down there for another like 4 days. And then I'm like, what the hell? Like, this doesn't, come on. Like that's just a getaway where it's warm in winter because it's cold here. Like that's obvious what that is. And then these organizations too, that people be a membership. I'm a member of whatever organization, and we have a monthly 2-day meeting. And of course, it's at some lodge or something like that. So, it's real soft topics, and then it's a social, and it's sponsored by vendors and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it was so trendy 10 years ago for school superintendents and principals and stuff to go over to China and observe the Chinese education system. I knew an administrator that did that. Biggest joke ever. And then this administrator set something up to have students come back to her district. And then when the students came back from this school she visited in China, spent a lot of time there when she should have been doing her job back at her home district. When she did this like kind of exchange thing, and then some students came back. And then when the students arrived at her district, she basically dumped them on the middle school principal and said, here, like for the next 2 weeks, you have to integrate them. And he's like, well, how do I do this? Like, are they supposed to attend certain classes, or what do we, so anyway, these things at face validity, it is completely escaped. These are weak people, and they do it because they can get away with it. And I mean, like with Newsom, the whole book thing is egregious. I mean, if you're saying I'm meeting with, some other states because, we're trying to collaborate on a, anti-crime policy or homeless at something, at least that seems legitimate, even though you're probably not doing that. But to just say, I wrote this book, which you co-wrote and is a kid's book. Why in the world should your state put up with you just bailing when, and kids are getting shot and killed in LA? Like I just read an article yesterday on that again. And here you are, you're gone. It's a shame. My friend, Kevin Dalton, who was running for mayor of Los Angeles, wrote an endorsement for the Velocity of Information. It's a back cover endorsement. You might have seen me post it. And like he said, this is insane, that you would have leadership leave. So anyway, this really irritates me because it's not that I've seen it now. Just I've seen it in other times. So when people badge that they are going to conferences or professional development, especially when they're in leadership positions, and those tend to tick up when situations get more tense. I'm going to be away from the situation. That they're not leaders. So, boo. I think I got through all of them. I had 5, yeah. So, boo. Let's go over to the chat. Boo. Not booing the chat though. This is what we're going to do for the chat right now. We are going to do. Just wait here, chat. We're going to do this for chat. Yay! Wow, chat. Dun, dun, dun. And yeah. All right. I lost this feature for a day, and then I figured out how to get it back. So that was kind of, I was like, oh no, but now it's back. So, and by the way, just so you know, it is winter here, so I have my winter hat on. So that hat's too small. So, and yep, here's my graduation cap. So I can be at one of those speeches where Janet Yellen is making her huge amount of money. So let's go over to the chat. John wrote, how about paying the labor what the job is worth instead of the Fed impoverishing most Americans via the money printing cranked to 11? No kidding, John or Jim. Thank you, Jim. You're right on, buddy. I see Flying Rich over there. Hey, Flying Rich, I haven't got to you yet on my main monitor here, but welcome, Flying Rich. By the way, Flying Rich amazes me because he 3D printed a bearing. I might have this wrong, but he has a pool vac. So it's kind of like I don't know, what is it, a Roomba type thing you can think of, right? And you hook this hose up to it, and it goes around the bottom and sides of your pool, which I don't have a pool. So if I had a pool in Wisconsin, it'd be an ice skating rink right now. But um, anyway, the part wore out on it. And Rich, who's like a whiz, like with home 3D printing, right? Takes this thing apart, figures out the piece, prints it, puts it in, and does a live video where he's demoing this thing. And of course, it works great. And he's testing it out. And of course, the pool water is like sucking some of the heat from the device. So I'll make like cool. I'm like, but isn't that cool? Like, this is really cool. I was telling my wife about that. So there's Sky Flying Rich, and I said that 3D printing stuff that he's showing, like that is going to become more and more common, where people are going to be fixing things that they have, and then just new things too are going to be. But I mean, he kept this thing going because he was able to use his talents with it. Anyway, that was really cool. Carl wrote one more time, if you don't share my values. So yeah, sorry, I got a little. So Lewis Hyde, trickster makes this world. So yeah, the Loki. So again, it's, I don't know if you get this, and please put it in the comments if you do, or there's other articles you want me to look at and things. But I always think it's so strange when I learn something that I feel like, oh, like I should have known that years ago. Like the Loki being a Norse god that you blame things, or the people never said like, oh, the Loki did that. So who dented the back of your car? Loki, or whatever it was. It just seems weird. Yeah. So, as I'm talking about face validity, right? I'm writing stuff in the book about finite voltage and things like this. I mean, how did I not know about this 3 years ago? That no one talked about it. So the dryer sock monster. We have a new washer and dryer. Well, we got it in summer because our other one's conked out. But we had a sock. My daughter's sock fell between the dryer and the wall, and I had to configure a mechanism to get in there and to get it out. Everything worked, but I was almost. So egg riser. I always try to be low key. God, see now, like egg riser in the velocity of information, I could have easily worked in. We blame things on the low key, but when things like, it's actually good for like Clay Martin and some of his books, because he, with survival and preparedness of he's saying, don't show your affiliations, try to stay low key, gray man stuff. But then the play on low key, I love it. I'll think about it. It's really good. Good job. Check out Socracy YouTube for some less. Okay, I will. Walter, the individual coffee create too much waste. Okay. Yeah, the individual. Yeah, where you have those little cups left over and stuff like that. So, Jim wrote, Keurig machine is fine if you buy the reusable filter. Okay. Wasn't it the dude that invented Keurig in the plastic containers afterwards? At least made a public statement saying, oh, I wish I wouldn't have designed it the way I did because there's a lot of waste. But Queso says, I'm too old for your BS. Whoa. Yeah. So it would one of the things I did as a school administrator too, especially when I was new somewhere, is I would say, I want to know professional development, everybody in the district, where they went last year. I want to know every conference I want to know their job title, and I want to know every conference they went to, like the name of the conference, how many days they were gone. And then I had a spreadsheet created, and I'd be like, here's, if you've been gone, whatever, like this has to level out, or like, why are we spending so much money on sending everybody to like this one conference on, behavior, for example, when we know that fourth grade reading scores are horrible, or math, or whatever it is. We need to be sending people to match the professional development as indicated by the data, not just what people want to attend. The conferences are used to, but people didn't like me for that. But so that's fine. I didn't really care. I still think it's a great thing to do. Okay, so get off my lawn or I'll eat your face. Whoa. Jim, gremlins. People always blame their ineptitude on the machine or an imaginary monster. because heaven forbid you admit you lost your sock. Yeah. There are people who are, what is it? The term blame throwers, which I think I used in School of Airs, where it's always being blamed on something instead of taking accountability. Just people are diverted. It's Teflon. What is it then? It's the thing that reflects the radar, so it doesn't even show that your image is there. Yeah, I know a couple people like that too, and it wears. I mean, one of the things, as a university instructor, and I've said, a couple times, I've said I was wrong on this, or else like I've become more informed, so like I'm changing my position on whatever, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know." Or if I said something, I think it was something I said about a board. Wasn't a board policy. It was like a board regulation or something. And I was inaccurate on what I said. And then one of my students in real time was like searching it up on the internet, which it kind of drives me nuts. But he's like, well, actually, Dr. Proden, this is whatever. I'm like, okay, then I guess it is. Like, I don't know. There's not a computer up here. This is kind of some old wiring. So, but yeah, okay, then let's go with that. It wasn't a huge thing, and I wasn't. But yeah, I know a friend who teaches medical classes and a doctor. She's like, God, that happens all the time, and she gets so angry with it because. But anyway, how about a cocked crossbow on your lap? Yikes! They pull a pistol, aim a bolt at their face. So I don't know if this is going down I'm catching up here on the comments. No full service. So we're talking about that gas stations like in DC. No full service stations anymore. Not attendants, therefore no professionals keeping riffraff away. Yep. So isn't it just? It's just crazy though, right? Don't. And there was no good plan of the gas station. So this is another thing. You think there would be some weigh in on this too from insurance companies. Like I'm not going to do it, but I'm tempted to call my insurance company and like put them on speakerphone and say, hey, I have a couple of questions. One is if I'm at a gas station and whatever, my vehicle is, or someone tries to carjack and they take the vehicle, like so insurance wise, like what does that look like? Then is it, do I get another vehicle or whatever? Or what if I'm, driving somewhere and suddenly traffic gets stopped and it's a protest and the protest turns violent? Do I leave the vehicle? And if the vehicle is damaged or destroyed, if it's declared like a riot or something, I think there's something in your insurance that in some insurance plans that then the insurance doesn't, cover it. So, what does this look like? Or even like police, giving some guidance on this versus like just authorities saying, just give it up, give the vehicle up. So, why do I keep a knife in my bathrobe? Welcome to 2021. Carl saying to Jim, I'm in New Jersey. You can't pump gas on your own. So, yeah, there's a couple states like that. So I guess that would decrease the carjacking. And one of the things I was reading, I don't know, in some of the threads for these articles, I did, additional research on it. And people then would turn the gas hose. If the hijacker was close enough, they would start to spray them with gas. And that was actually deemed very effective. Now, I'm not telling anybody to do that, but like that was redundantly put in of people saying, yeah, just that will change the situation, their loop of thinking. So I don't know. I saw that in Zoolander once. It didn't work out well. Jim. Yep, Carl. Walter to Jim. We have one left. He tried to eliminate, but customers demanded it. Home delivery will make it cheaper at the pump. Yeah, so we're getting into this whole thing is I think as we read these articles about like carjacking and all these tips for, hey, here's filling up your car without, getting your car hijacked or taken. That's actually happened around me. like not in my city specifically that I'm aware of, but like within 30 miles. So yeah, I don't, this is, but I do think we will see kind of like an Uber type thing, but it's going to be delivering gas. And I, it's a business model that right now in those types of places, in those big metros, it would work as long as you could get past the regulation of how you transport it, the fuel, and right that you'd have to have some responsibility, right, for the type of fuel, right, that you're putting in. But I don't think it's any different than, if you're going out to farms and pumping, giving gas and putting in the tanks out for farmers for their tractors. And I know it's diesel, stuff like that, but Carl wrote to Jim, I remember at Royal Farms trying to pump my own gas at 5 a.m. The attendant said, "You can't do that." I said, "Hey, stop me." He ran in and got the night manager. My tank was full. So Carl's like, "You will not fill up my gas." Then they tried to clean the windshield, put on new wipers, all of that stuff. So pickups and vans with integrated auxiliary tanks will be a thing. So, yep. Yeah, there'll be all of these things in kind of these little side industries, too, in these retrofits. Carl to Jim, you got it. Farm trucks always have 50 gallon in the back. If you put a tank on your property, the tank becomes a target. True, right? Carl to Jim, don't tell them you have a UST or AST. Jim, electric cars, towing generators will be a thing. Yeah. Build a shed over the tank. Walter, LA police are recommending people not visit because they can't guarantee safety. Holy smokes. So, and yeah, I get daily updates from, my friend Kevin Dalton, next mayor of LA. And again, so Garcetti and Newsom leaves to do his kids' book tour in other parts of the country right now, as LA is saying, don't come here, right, because we can't guarantee your safety. Isn't that crazy? I mean, from a face validity standpoint, these are just people abandoning any type of responsibility and knowing they won't be held accountable. And so there's the one thing of a moral, and I need to do this, and I'm standing up, and it's the other thing is, hey, I'm getting a great big salary, and I have all this power position, and I can do whatever I want, and no one's going to hold me accountable. I mean, he survived a recall, Newsom. So, and I don't know if Garcetti's, going to be around after the election. So when your leadership gives up and abandons, it just is a trickle down. So with material prices are stupid inflated, says Jim. Jim wrote to, or Carl to Jim, driving down in New Jersey, seeing the electric chargers empty and the truck area is full. Trucker shortage? This question. This is like supers taking sabbaticals while their schools fail. Yeah. So we go back to the kind of on that article, but with Newsom on his book tour. Oh God, supers. Yeah, you're right. Doing the sabbaticals, and that is now part of contracts. So when I was in administration, it wasn't, and then suddenly it became part of contracts. If you can have so many days to go present at conferences, and you also get paid by the district, or you can take a sabbatical after 2 years on the job, so much time off. It's university. It used to be. Now I'm not tenured, so it didn't impact me, but I think if you had 5 years of work, you got a semester off for sabbatical for your own personal research or whatever, which I guess some people might do, but otherwise it was just a semester off that was paid. So it's like, what the hell? This stuff just makes me grind my teeth. You don't, if you're going to get away a Camp David type thing, right, to refresh. I mean, the purpose of that was 3-4 days away to kind of clear your thoughts and think about things and then get back in the grind. That's not what's happening now. These people are perpetually sabbaticals, book tours, conferences, these meetings and stuff like that. You got to see it as an administrator. They, these conferences you would go to, it's always the softball topics at a conference, how to improve morale, or, these things. It's not, something that's going to really be, gritty and require a whole lot of work. And they'll say it's networking, you're just hanging out with people and having meals provided by vendors. And so I got sick of it, and I still get sick that it continues to this day. Again, especially when, things are really challenging. Step up to the plate, don't go back to the dugout, change into your civilian clothes, catch a plane and go to your book tour on a children's book. So was it really necessary to bail and do that? Jim wrote, I've heard a rumor of gang warfare pending in Los Angeles. Never to be sufficiently damned phone. So, man, who knows? Hey, it's Rich. Yo, 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 it's Rich. It's Flying Rich. So our 3D printing friend, and just good friend overall, but Flying Rich just amazes me with the stuff that he does. So I think that is so much the future. I want to talk to Rich about that too. I have him on the Monday version of the Safety Doc and the 3D printing thing, and just even talk about like the pool cleaner, right? Is an older thing and stuff like this. And so you got to take your modern technology and merge it, and you go and you fix it. But what does this mean? What can people do with other things and other parts? And can we keep things from kind of like, wearing out? And what stuff do you see as being printed that you're not going to have to go and buy at a store anymore? And how fast is this going to happen? Like the number of people I know now who have home 3D printers is through the roof. To the question where I kind of get asked, like, do you have, what do you 3D print? I'm like, I don't 3D print anything because I don't have a 3D printer. And they're like, oh, okay, not yet. You will. Carl to Jim, Philadelphia has a rule where don't interfere. 5 CVS and 9 Walgreens in the Center City close. Why? Yeah. So Carl, that is, and we see more of this, like even by me, Madison, Wisconsin, State Street 1's very vibrant. When I went to campus down there, it's right off of campus, and still places are boarded up, and just kind of, they do these pop-up businesses, right? That'll be there for a month or two, these seasonal things. It's because who's going to pay for these places if there's another riot or civil unrest? They'll all get vandalized again. And CVS and Walgreens, like Best Buy had the earnings statement where they said they have a lot of organized theft happening, and they also have employees who are saying, I don't want to work here anymore because it's traumatizing. And that's, I actually looked at Walgreens stock pays a pretty good dividend, like 4%. I think CVS closed a lot of stores. I don't think that was crime related, but I'm like, Walgreens one is crushed by Amazon entering kind of the prescription model and things like that. But the other part with Walgreens in areas, you've got to be thinking organized theft, and that is a very susceptible business model, right? So especially when government and larger areas aren't going to enforce prosecution. So, as I look at that, honestly, it was a factor in my consideration. I don't own shares of Walgreens, by the way, but that was something when I was looking at saying, that's part of this model, which isn't good. And so some of these companies are just going to succumb also to these policies. We've already seen it with smaller companies. Jim McIntosh, why does the education industry insist on banker hours? How are working adults supposed to work and retrain? So good question. And I think during the last 2 years, there was an opportunity for example, K-12 to switch up and say, some of the stuff we're going to do like one night a week or something like that, and start to change some of your hours. So maybe some teachers don't teach in a morning or two, but then have some night stuff that they teach. Universities when I was attending the university, it seemed that there were a number of sections available at night. When I instruct on Saturdays, so that works out for people. But yeah, it's a good point. I mean, and also that whole model of when do we start looking at year-round schooling? But Jim McIntosh, or Carl to Jim. My brother is a sub in multiple schools. He's well certified, has Google certs up the butt, can't get a job. Why? So kind of saying it. I think around here they would hire anybody who would be applying. There's such a shortage around here. Carl to Dave, 22K student in Camden, New Jersey. Super makes 400K. Holy smokes. 400K plus a big pension payment every year. So, and probably expenses, probably a vehicle, a lot of different allowances going into that, probably conference allowance and stuff like that. Students graduate 6th grade level. Yep. Yeah. Oh my God. That is absolutely crazy. Yep. Student spending that high and those type of salaries. And that's happening. These districts are getting the pandemic funds and they're jamming them into salaries, especially administrative salaries. And we've seen again this. The superintendent. So there's a salary. There's pension payments, pension fund payments behind that. There's reimbursement for personal expenses for phone, internet, all of that stuff. Probably, I know soups who have cars built into their contract. The district leases them a car. So again, you got to be in a bigger district to kind of get that, but that is just insane. But I know we go into this and it's people who serve in bigger cities on city boards and stuff like that. And, they're making 200,000 a year plus pension payments and, retirement stuff for life and insurance and all pro Lemonton. I think businesses are having a lot of trouble finding reliable part-time work. You used to be able to get students, retired people, stay-at-home parents. Absolutely. Yep. I live close to, it's Wisconsin Dells, if you've ever heard of it, but it's like the water capital of the world. And they used to hire, high school, college kids from all around the area and pay great money for them to come in and retire people to run these attractions. And, like you could, back 2-3 years ago, you're a college kid, you could make 15, 20 grand a summer, doing those jobs. And now they're not there. So yeah, it is. You're right. I mean, and that's why I think it's a supply chain, which we kind of got to in that first article, which was from BREITBART. 75% of small businesses pounded by supply chain crisis and inflation. But the big part of that missing is just there's not the workers. They're just not applying or they're not staying. So yeah, and even if you have the appeal of this is a fun place to work, it's going to be low stress and maybe we can do some kind of bonus, people are just like, nope, just not going to do it. Jim wrote, Oxford is a nice place. I have a feeling the school teenager was somewhat bullied, possibly both in real life and online. Yeah, you're right. There's going to be much more coming out about that. I did a show, I don't know, a couple of days after that because I was getting contacted frequently. People were asking about threat assessments in schools and, what are schools required to do? Are there federal laws, state laws, and all of that? So I was getting into that. And I'm going to continue to watch that closely because there is this gap in schools between if you're concerned about a student's well-being and you bring that to the attention of the parent, right? And the parent's like, no, the student's going to stay in school or whatever, then what is your next move on that? And I think there needs to be an actual guidance document coming out from the U.S. Department of Ed of saying, to schools to contact their child protective services or, this is when you have an area that's still, it's gray, right? Because what the student was reporting, he was he was going to write a movie or was coming up with this stuff. So, you know, kind of like maybe like a young Stephen King, but yet you're still reading these messages and you're like, we need to have more of an evaluation here. But if the parents aren't going to do it, so it is a tricky area. I've been in that spot in schools, and not only that, but also with medical stuff, right? Like, you know, you think a student might have type 1 diabetes because they have, you know, become lethargic at certain times of the day, and you're contacting the parent, you know, stuff like that. But the parents, you know, you don't have the cooperation, or there'll be more coming out. But yeah. Yeah, it's the bit. The bit is saying, "What's up, Doc?" So, hey, what's up is it's starting to warm up, and it's going to be over 50 degrees here in a couple days, which is really something for a mid-December in Wisconsin. Carl says, I live in a place where there are 32 houses. I open my door and I say, turkeys. Oh my goodness. The bit is, hey, dudes. Jim is saying trucking is a skill, but it's demonized by the idiots that depend on the drivers keeping the economy rolling, you know, calling them a basket of deplorables, things like that. I completely agree, Jim. Truck drivers got hosed during the whole essential versus non-essential. And the fact that we didn't, you know, the federal government, the state governments didn't say, we're keeping these certain way stations, waysides open for truckers, or like these certain truck stops we're going to, you know, supply, you know, FEMA staff, because truck drivers need to be able to access food, showers, you know, fuel, bathrooms, all of that. And because truck drivers, right, they were saying, hey, like now, great, our hours have been expanded and how much we can carry and all of these things have kind of been relaxed, but we can't find bathrooms, or it's hard to go somewhere to eat, or all the you know, the showers and stuff like that. That should have been a major priority. Like, we should have been championing, you know, doing things, you know, people and raising meals and getting hot meals and stuff like out at these areas. And, you know, like everybody was at home, like sewing up a mask or 3D printing mask or stuff like that. And we needed to do so much more for the over the road truckers. I think there was something in Arizona where they kept like 2 truck stops open in the state or something like that. There was some small effort. This was just, to me, it's appalling. It is absolutely appalling, how we declared truck drivers essential and then offloaded all of the burden onto them, right? Of saying, you know, just keep driving. There's no bathroom, but there's a woods over there. And yeah, you haven't had a shower for 4 days. And I mean, it was horrible. It was a massive, I don't even know if it's a blunder. It was a conscious decision to just say, no, they'll just keep doing it. So I think it sucked. I think truck drivers got treated horribly during the last 2 years. And just in general, I think truck drivers earn or deserve a lot more appreciation than what they're given and acknowledged. But it was really apparent, really, really apparent right in the last 2 years. So I think it's shameful. Caro, I still use bollards example to get people angry about safety. No EHS professional. Why are you telling me about safety? Oh God. Yeah, those bollards. Chapter 28 in my book, people will be like, is there any particular place or kind of like, what's your favorite part? I said, well, chapter 28, when I get into bollards. And also when I wrote in chapter 28, Pete Medic from, I believe it was Ohio, wrote about bollards on bike trails, and how when they put these bollards on bike trails, which were completely unnecessary because people weren't driving their vehicles up and down bike trails hitting other people. But that was the thought, right? You put these bollards so then people wouldn't be driving their cars on these things. But and then bicyclists would come around a corner, they'd be bollard there and they'd hit it and be maimed or killed. There were bicyclists killed from hitting bollards. And, you know, so once you put them in, that was the other thing. That's like, and pretty much impossible to get out. I mean, if you screw up a security camera, you can just kind of disconnect it, and it doesn't, no one's going to know the difference, right? But once you put a bollard there, like that's there, like in front of the schools where my kids attend, those bollards are drilled in, and now they're kind of rusting and they're all faded after a couple of years. But you're not getting those things out. So, Caro to Jim, truckers and train engineers make our world. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good morning, gentlemen. Juan, the Aztec Patriot. Good morning, Juan. Juan is our friend in the Tenderloin, keeping us up to date. So he was going to organize some Christmas caroling in the Tenderloin, but he thought at the last minute to hold off on that for a year. But yeah, Juan is a great member check, and appreciate his work ethic. And also Juan on Instagram he documents the homeless condition in the San Francisco area. Really some brilliant work that he's done for a while. So Juan. Jim, fuel truck driver with armored fuel tank festooned with weapons. It's going to be like a Mad Max, won't it? Right? How long before we see just stuff like this? It's crazy, right? Or you're going to have some fuel truck that's going to be, disguised as a chicken wagon or something like that, or I don't know. Look outside my window. Time to get the Mad Max. Hey, I was thinking the same thing, Carl. Hey, Mad Max. So. Jim, my problem is getting the right best for Queso. He's 5.5. So Queso being your dog, right? Yeah. Jim, I had a damn probation officer not in her office because she was always at some damn conference. I was supposed to show up on time, but you're not in the office. How am I supposed to meet you at your office, right? Oh my, I mean, it's when no one is held accountable. Like people will do this, they'll do it once, right? And then they'll be like, okay, if somebody calls me on it, I can say I didn't know any better, or yeah, now I won't do it after that. But if no one calls them on it, then they'll do it again. Then the more they do it, it just becomes the precedence. It's just like, oh, that's just the way that position is or whatever. And then people kind of don't question it, or other people start turning around and they come in and they're like, oh, I guess this is the way it is. Unless you're like a change agent, kind of like when I would come in and say, I want to see where everybody went for professional development last year. And I want to know the days they were gone. And then I'm going to cross-reference it to our data-driven need areas and see if these are matching up. And then I actually would tell people, no, you're not going to whatever conference for the 10th year in a row. So you're going to the math conference. I need a sip of coffee here. It was a great chat, by the way. Thank you. And thank you for the 19 thumbs up. I greatly appreciate that. I need to re-render my my safety doc. I don't know what I'm doing here. My safety doc intro, because it doesn't fill the whole screen. So I'm like, why in the hell does that? I mean, everything is like edited. Okay, it's just not. It didn't go out in 16:9 formats. Yeah, do that. Subscribe. And by the way, this book, if you haven't already purchased this book, my book, School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety America, it is in hard copy and ebook. It's a great read, right? You guys talk about bollards. I mean, in chapter 28, and but this is it's a punchy, it's a smart book about school safety, industrial complex, how school safety decisions are made, and especially after school violence. The book, people find out about the book, they ask questions. They find my stuff on PBS too, and PBS reruns my shows. But School of Errors is, if you're a parent or you have friends who are parents, or even like friends who are teachers, get them the book. It's absolutely essential. So I gotta get this banner thing off here. There we go. Okay, I'll keep going through the questions here. So, all right. All pro Lemonton. Why are superintendents making more than the governor? That's ridiculous. Yeah, you could if you really, I mean, looked at it, you're going to find a lot of people who make more than the governor in different states. You start looking at my state and the people at the state retirement board who oversee the billions in state retirement that's been put in by firefighters and prison workers and teachers and superintendents. The bonuses and the salaries that these folks get. But but yeah, that is, I mean, it is a good question. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility in these bigger districts and a superintendents, and this competition now to get and if a superintendent is willing to move, if you're willing to move as a soup and be an agent of change, um, you could go from 2 to 3 years in a district to another district to another district to another, probably state to state. I know soups who have done that. Now, if you have a family and it's uprooting and stuff like that, but yeah, these salaries have just and it's this whole industry now. So superintendents, it used to be 15 years ago, you would apply for superintendent or principal job, and you would just do that on your own to these places. And now these superintendents are contracting with agents. So yeah, agents, companies, to then the company then basically applies on their behalf to different districts that they call a match. And here's the hitch on this. These companies are usually working for these districts. So the districts hire search companies, which is a joke. Districts should be able to do this on their own. They don't need to hire a search company. But then the search companies, oh, like we're in the business, like we can vet these superintendents and all this stuff. And then it kind of works both ways. Like they're taking money from the superintendents or the aspiring superintendents, and then they try to match them up on jobs. And then usually if so, you hire as a school board, you're hiring the search agency to find you your next superintendent, or so they bring in these people. And so you're paying this big amount of money. And then once you hire that person, you're paying another amount of money. If they stay there 2 years, you're paying like a bonus into the search agency. So yeah, superintendents have agents. That's agents, just like sports agents, and which people don't know about. It's very, very common now. Starting to happen with principals. And I think it's going to happen with teachers again in the next year. You're going to see some teachers in the very hard to fill areas, such as technology, speech language, chemistry, things like that. Teachers already get poached by other districts with bonus money. Like in my area, a teacher got a $50,000 bonus to switch from one district to another, 50,000 spread over 5 years, and had to stay there each year and got this $10,000 bonus. And the reason that the district poached was to say, well, if we don't have this position, we're probably going to lose students through open enrollment, right? Because schools are competing against each other, and these are wealthier districts, and they'll just come in and say it's worth it for us, because if we get a couple students to enroll in, that makes up the difference on this. And if we didn't have this offering, we might have some students enroll out. And so it is crazy that this actually happens. But I think it will be, and I've talked to other administrators on this, they're thinking the same thing. Within the next year, there will be, in some states or in some bigger metros, you will, as a teacher, you'll be able to hire an agent. Like book companies have agents. I don't have an agent for my book stuff, but you'll be able to hire an agent, and they will basically apply on your behalf. And then if you get hired, there'll be a certain amount to pay them. And then if you get hired, like they'll probably negotiate and they'll take up like maybe $5,000 or 10%. I don't know what it is. That will happen. We're very, very close to teachers. Now, it's going to be more valuable some teachers are going to have the quarterback positions, right? Like I just talked about, whether you're, math, science, technology, or like speech language, those areas, they're going to be able to negotiate better. But yeah, it is, who would have thought, right? Like who would have thought that these industries would start to emerge? Jim wrote, society works better with a full-time mom in the house. I don't care what the idiots say. So yeah, if possible, right? Like, I think that is a really good, it's a really good model for stability, right? So yeah, I'm with you on that. that's how our household, that's how we chose to do things. So, and I think it was completely the right decision. And you do sacrifices to make that. It's not available for everyone, but I think that's a good point. Juan wrote, in San Francisco, the school does contact CPS when a child is in danger. Not sure about the surrounding counties. So yeah, those systems should be pretty well versed in all districts, a threat assessment. And so the question is, who in that threat assessment, what's the process they go through? Like, is it a specific, we do these 4 things, and then we ask these set of interview questions, and here's when we contact law enforcement. Usually that's pretty well laid out, and then who has the discretion to make decisions and stuff like that. So Carl wrote, I'm keeping $8,500 a year for a stepkid to go to school, and she's being poisoned in her mind, encouraged to get a useless degree. You need to get out of here. So sorry to hear about that, buddy. Whoa, $8,500 a year. So if you took that and you were to invest that in paperbacks of my upcoming book and give those out to just random people or people, that are your intellectual friends, just imagine like the power that would have. So, hey, it is BV Luminous. Welcome, BV Luminous. Thank you. Thank you guys for the 20 likes and for the watch hour subscriptions. I appreciate it. Welcome, BV Luminous. How is everyone? We are doing well. And our good friend Phil Henry coming to us from Germany. Phil, there was a real blockade when Brexit happened. Yeah. So it is Phil. Phil has one of the original Knight Rider cars over at his place in Germany. Hey, Phil. Jim wrote, you can be charged with 4th degree CSC in Michigan for public whizzing. Yikes. I hope to never hear about Gretchen, your Gretchen, the governor, again. Yeah, those are interesting times. They still continue to be interesting times. I wrote about Barber Carl Mankey in the Velocity of Information in Ossawa, Michigan. And Carl was deemed non-essential. And so he was a 77-year-old barber, and he kept cutting hair. And the state patrol came, they locked up his barber shop. And then like after the media would leave, like they'd let him unlock it. And he would go back in cutting hair. And the state fined him for like having a comb in his pocket, like several $1,000s. Eventually they dropped all of the charges because there was so much publicity on it. But it's early on in my book, this chapter, essential versus non-essential, just this whole, and one morning, each of us woke up either as essential or non-essential. And here's what it looked like for Carl, and like everybody got sorted. So pretty wild. Carl, hey, it's Friday. We are in Mad Max 1. It's the law. Yeah, it is crazy times. Zippy, it's almost like people are too forgiving these days. Could be. Carl, playing money for nothing in my other ear. Yeah. Sultans of Swing. What was Dire Straits? What was the group? Forget it. If OBS can so OBS systems, so getting my 16-bit. I think I have my aspect ratio fixed now. I'll let you know if anything changes. Somehow I messed up the canvas setting on Camtasia. So as I said, I'm looking at this, I'm like, that's weird. Like something's not right. And then I couldn't sync my camcorder. I recorded the show, which will go as a premiere on Monday night. So it's all done and edited. It's good. But I had my camcorder, and there were parts when my camcorder was out of whack. It was speeding up or slowing down just a little bit. So I'm watching I'm matching the audio tracks, and I'd see like a little change in the audio. I'm like, what's going on? So to try to sync that video, because usually then I'll go on the 2 angles, was almost impossible. So I just had a small section at the start to show a different angle. And it's like, after that, I can't do it. So I don't know. It's weird. I'll have to check, because usually those are very easy to sync up, right? I mean, you just overlay the audio tracks, and I think it was kind of a weird angle too, that it has to be more showing my face, because if you show it from the side, it's not quite it. I'm still kind of working some things out down here. Carl, I encouraged my girl to read this book. She was a teacher. She won't pick it up because reasons. Bought her the hardcover. Nope, uncracked. Oh, buddy, too bad. Yeah, unfortunately, that one is only hardcover and ebook. They never did paperback, even though they told me they would. So I don't know if I should contact them again and say, remember that was going to come out in paperback. So the Velocity of Information is hardcover, paperback, ebook. Eventually, it will be on audiobook. It's kind of more expensive, but it's because it's a professional book and index and all of the graphics and things that go into it. So it's not that I don't set the price on that, but the paperback is 35. Eventually, like you'll see them, used and stuff like that. But it is a very, very, very good investment for $35. And again, I mean, it's a fraction of a sports ticket if you're in the sports ball or something like that. So, hey, welcome, Shelter in Paradise. The book is essential entertaining. Reviewing on Amazon once if I appreciate that. I have 44 reviews as of today, and it's stuck at 44 for a while. Now, thankfully, they're all 5-star reviews, and they're really some thoughtful, brilliant perspectives. So I appreciate that. One of the biggest things that moves people from contemplating to buy the book versus buying it are reviews, flat out. So, and current reviews, right? So you posting your review is going to make a big difference. It will. And there's also this psychological thing. Once a book gets more than 50 reviews, people view it as having more credibility behind it. So yeah, I appreciate the reviews that are out there in Shelter Paradise. Thank you so much for having the book and, for being willing to put a review on Amazon. So thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. Carl, don't even look at New Jersey. It's a clown show. Oh, sorry about that. FMOS definition, forever morphing organic substance. Jim, yes. Now read it again. It will make more sense. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Carl, why do I have so much alphabet soup on my name? And I don't want to work for you. So yeah. It was interesting when I did both books, but the Velocity of Information, I didn't put my PhD like on the cover. And one of the things is I was seeing that there wasn't that just isn't kind of in vogue. Like if you do there are things you can put on a cover and like add scene in and all this other stuff. And it's better to keep kind of like a clean cover, at least in my opinion, and kind of like my publisher and stuff. But self-looking ice cream cone, 879 subs. So super pilotish. Thank you. Hey, we were at 880 this morning. So we've lost one. Is one of you, somebody's bailed on us. We got to go find them and bring them back. But 879 is up. Yesterday I was 868. So I'm actually, I am charting now the growth because I need to keep track of the watch hours also, because that's going to take a while to get those up to the 4,000, which means I can monetize the channel possibly. Carlson, my brother and students go to the auditorium yesterday. Why? No teachers, no subs. Yep. Yeah. Seen that. Right. People go to the auditorium or they're watching a movie or something like that. Elf. Oh my God. Jim, can't wait for 2022. Things have been brought to many heads. Things much change. Who knows what in the world is going to be coming with that. So Jim is saying, buy the governor of Michigan a copy of Worthless by Aaron Clary, or wouldn't it, or are you saying that to Carl? Sorry, to Carl, because not the person not reading School of Errors. So yeah, and actually for Whitmer you can buy Enjoy the Decline from Aaron Clary. So 2 purchases there. Carl, okay, so when the girls are sleeping, the ladies upstairs still angry. Oh, welcome to Friday. Oh no, man. It's too bad people don't, they won't read the book just because, right? It's not, they don't want to have the risk of having their position challenged or being informed, or even like, somebody told me once, like they they had to hate read the book because they absolutely didn't want to learn or think anything more school safety. But then when they got done with it, they were like very glad that they did it. But it was kind of this hate read. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I don't know if they left a review or anything, but I'm like, it doesn't seem like the type of book you should have to hate read. But hey, Dire Straits, yeah, Jim, good. Jim, I bought the kids 12 Rules for Life in a year. She'll get worthless. I'll be ignored. We have to get out of this place. Yeah. Worthless, Clary was right on with that, with Worthless. And so, I mean, I know people, as we all probably do, but I mean, who went into these degrees that they're and these massive, debts to pay for the college experience. And now all of this money that you're trying to pay back and doing seasonal employment, or even you get this perpetual student status. Like I know some of these people too. I'm going back to school for whatever, you're 35 and you're going back for another Master of Arts degree. And what? Well, on the TV channel here at whatever, company, you can, come in and start for 22 hours an hour plus benefits and move up. And, some of these companies, right? I mean, if you have a good work ethic now and you just stay with them and take the professional development and the courses that they offer, within 4 or 5 years, you could be in a really great place. But yeah, I know some of these perpetual student mindsets. And, once you're in your 30s and you're still perpetually in the student thing, that's a really bad place to be. Hey, does she like audiobooks? Hey, Safety Doc, this is from Zippy. When is the book coming out on Kindle? So the book, the Velocity of Information, has the ebook version, which I believe then is Kindle. That will be out when it releases April 11th, right? Because I think School of Errors is ebook or Kindle and hard copy, right? I think. And then I know it's ebook, and I think that's the same thing. So it is April 11th. It comes out hard copy, paperback. Then audiobook is by contract staggered to early 2023. So I know it's kind of a downer, but and the audiobook will actually be the most affordable of all the versions. But that book by contract, there was a delay that's built in. And part of that is, this is deemed a professional book from my traditional publishing company that, and so it gets into the university network. So that becomes university text into libraries, adoption, things like that. And then audio is the last rollout on that. So I have no control over that. I know it's frustrating, but at least there is an audio version where there was not an audio version for School of Errors. So I am excited about that. But I'm working right now. I have 2 choices, and one is to work with other choices, I guess, but it's down to kind of 2, which is ACX, which is going through Amazon and Audible, or Faraway Voices or something like that. Forget which one. Which is a similar distributor, and then you can also distribute onto Amazon, but it's different. Findaway Voices. So I've got to make some decisions. Findaway is easier to get library access, to have my book in libraries, than with ACX. But I'm not sure then if you have a Audible membership, then if you can just go in and find my book on Audible and use one of your credits. I don't know. See, I'm asking these questions, and even like, Audible and Findaway, they're not real good at answering these questions. I'm like, I need to know this, because, if people have audiobook memberships on Audible and stuff like that, and then they can't get the book, well, then that doesn't make sense for me to do that. Like if they'd have to pay in addition to their $14.99 a month or something. But also, like, I don't want to shut the book out of libraries as a audiobook, which I think Findaway has more access and a better plan for libraries. I've been kind of comparing. So I'm buying 2 copies of Velocity. Will she read it? Nope. But I'm cited. Yeah, absolutely. Shut up. Some people cannot be reached. So yeah, with the yeah, Velocity. So, and the paperback one again is 35. Hard copy is 75. I know it's a big, I don't set the price, and that's because they go university and university libraries and stuff. And 35 though, again, it's a, this, I don't know where I don't have the final proof on it. Probably be like 240, 250 pages, but I mean, holy smokes, the time that went into that, and the custom graphics and just everything. That is a very, very, I mean, you're getting your value for that. You're not getting your Governor Newsom in your book tour. um, and I don't set the prices on the books, but it's extremely good. Uh, uh, there's much value, much value in the book. So, and let's see here. So Jim is writing, despite having no degree, I am rather well deplorable. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I place value or considerations in degrees. I how should I say this? There's in I mean, I know so many people who are very good and just scholarly and thoughtful, and they've kind of soak that up on their own. Degrees I think are helpful if you're going into a specific area that you have to learn. Mechanical engineering, right? Probably something where degree and understanding the programs and loads and CAD and all that stuff is important. So there are those types of things. But I mean, the way that we get into modern philosophy and psychology and stuff like that for degrees, gets so. But yeah, I've never measured anyone by a degree, and it's funny because sometimes when people interact with me, they will be, they'll either, like my degree will present some positionality of being like a little intimidating, of having a PhD of Madison. So I'm like, well, yeah, but I never hold. I know some people that do that though, and it kind of makes me sick and irritating. I did in the last week. It is the first time in a couple of years I actually had to use my credentials to kind of stop somebody because they were going off on this rant about the school shooting in Oxford, Michigan, and they were completely inaccurate in their assumptions on the way threat assessments are done in schools and county agencies. I mean, and first of all, way too early to say that because very little information had come out. And so I was just trying to gently bring this person around to there's more to this, and we've got to look at when more information comes out on a timeline and how this threat assessment, who knew what when and stuff like that. No, they already had it all figured out and things like that. And I think they actually said like, no, you're wrong on this or whatever. And then I was like, okay, this is it. I have to lay down the gauntlet. I'm like, dude, like I've been on PBS twice. Like I've written a book about this. Like I've been an expert witness on this topic, credential wise, to stack me. There's a handful of people, right, kind of in this arena, and you're not one of them. And just, you can have opinions, right? And you can say things, but to make these absolute conclusive statements that are false, and then try to pass yourself off as a pro, is just not going to cut it. And I'm not going to sit here and just let you do it. So yeah, then the credentials had to come out. Very rare. That's just not me. But I was just like, I'm like, man, this person was just so like into themselves. Carl said to Juan, a buddy of mine got fired as a janitor because he wouldn't prop a fire door open for a teacher. Oh my God. Yeah. I remember we used to do sweeps in the schools, safety sweeps, the safety team, right? And we'd check all of the doors, and of course, like you'd be picking up all of the little stones and wood pieces and whatever, a shoe that they would put by the door to prop it open. So you'd always have this sack of stuff. Yeah, so never fails. We fatigue our safety systems. We got to get out of this place. The animal, circa 68. Jim, that's funny. It's good. If it's the best thing we ever do. All right. Somewhere there's a better life for you and me. Yeah, God, you guys good. Information that will disturb her. So the problem is, yeah, some people are just information adverse, man. So I'm buying 2 copies, Dave. I don't care about the price. All right. Well, the nice thing is, like, because there is a professional book company, right? So if you buy, well, if you want to buy like a hard copy, it's the hard copy has a sewn, looking at the back here at School of Airs on here, it's sewn, so your pages aren't going to fall out and stuff like that. And this original copy of School of Airs, this was the first book I ever got from the publisher. And this thing is gone with me everywhere, like university courses, presentations I've done, author events, stuff like that. Now it's all marked up. The corners aren't even bent on it. Like this, look at the cover. I mean, this thing has been so it's just, you get a really well-made book from a traditional publisher, because these are meant to be, for example, in libraries and checked out and used for years. And so they have a certain standard that they print these to. So when you do invest in a hardcover book, like one of mine, it's going to be very well constructed, right? So this one still amazes me, because if I just took all my little Post-it note stickers and stuff like that off and showed it to someone, you could just say, this is brand new, it just arrived yesterday. And this book has been, again, just kind of tossed around, and that's just my workbook, that hey, it's Bull Rush. He wrote, your content is criminally underrated. Thank you, buddy. I did Bull Rush. I did a show, so Monday night I have a premiere, and I finished it yesterday. I honestly probably put in like 8 hours on this show, because I prepped it out. I had some problems rendering it and had to go back. And it is so it's 1 hour, and then I'll be in the chat. So it's a premiere, and it's 10 questions about what it's like to work at a school for the blind, because I worked as an administrator at the school for the blind for 4 years. And so I have these 10 questions, and there's things like no one would ever think or ask. Like, for example, we had 2 students who actually got their driver's license and could drive during the day. So it was, people are like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, no. So some students that attended had good enough vision during daylight and whatever, and then like didn't have night vision because of a rod and cone deficiency or what. I don't know what it was, but there would be things in there in these top 10, and also like how the students would use the dating apps, like the high school students, and students would play video games. Even though you'd be blind, you'd still have, I don't know, haptic, or how like Call of Duty and stuff like that. All of those things are like really big, and you'd be like, well, how does that work? So, but it's amazing, these kind of 10 things I go through, which will be like, whoa, I have no idea. I don't want to give all of the stuff out, but it's a cool show. So it's a good friend, Bull Rush. Bull Rush collects 22-inch monitors for computers. So if you contact him, you got to pay shipping. You won't do that, but it has to be functioning, but he collects them. He has them all hooked in serial. So no matter where he's at in his house, whatever's on the screen, like he can, it's always there. So it's a novel idea. Pretty cool. Works for him. Let's see. Can't go back. I can't yell. The dogs are asleep. Don't wake Queso. Zippy saying, "Safety Doc, I feel your humility and understand. Gives you great perspective. You put up with the silly ass." Yeah. So, man, yeah. It's a little bit. I don't know. I'm trying, right? And the channel is growing. I'm trying to get more people to be aware of the channel because this show is more candid. The Monday nights are more curated. But there's a lot of really great content. 162 episodes of the safety doc. I mean, well over 200 hours. Everything's out on audio. There's a blog post, and the one thing is, if you pick it out, pick maybe 10 shows you're interested in. If you go through and you're going to come away from that, I just think, with a better perspective on things or something. You'll learn stuff. You'll be like, I didn't know this before. And a lot of it is like, I didn't know things. So as I kind of, got to know things, and I wanted to pass it on and share, but I take notes, like they're well put together. I got blog posts that go with everything. And so I'm kind of like hoping every once in a while. I had somebody in Florida contacted me and said, hey, I found your channel. Like, I've been listening to all your shows and I love them. So I'm like, well, great. But yeah, it has been flying under the radar. Although again, I'm starting to get up there in the number of people, like subscribers and stuff like that. So I appreciate it. So this is Jim. Sometimes you got to beat people across the face with the gauntlet. Whoa. Carl Zippy. It's great to have good discussions. Hey, it absolutely always is. Doc said him. Do you know the FIM? It's like, I felt myself kind of like that. It was so rare because usually whenever I'm brought into a discussion or the media contacts me, right, they know who they're contacting. So I don't have to go through. It's kind of like when you're an expert witness and you pass what's called a Daubert challenge. It's basically once you're proven to be an expert, like you can't continually be challenged on your expertise on something, right? Because you pass that threshold. So then you are considered an expert going forward in that case, right? So it was just weird because, I was like, don't you know that? I was on PBS, for God's sakes. Maybe School of Airs, but yeah, it was just somebody, way outside of their professional bounds. I don't even know what really their background was, but they were just making statements that were just inaccurate. And two, like just trying to get people to measure themselves until more information comes out, right? And that's the only reason I present it on Oxford, the only reason I did a show a day or two after that was because I was getting so many messages saying threat assessment. Who does that? Federal level? Is it out of state? Do schools not have to do it? What if the county doesn't comply? What if whatever? Because like that was just in the news, threat assessment. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come in and talk about threat assessment. And then I also had some mental health things that I presented on PBS that I brought into that. But I wasn't saying like, here's exactly, here's where it fell apart, or here's this, here's that, here's whatever. It was like threat assessment. Yeah, typically, I mean, all schools have a threat assessment. But what it looks like, it's unique per schools. It's kind of inter-school or inter-district reliability is probably varies widely. Jim, or more commonly, hit the jackass between the eyes of the 2x4. Oh my God. So let's go over here to Zippy. I try, or OCD, randomly ADHD and dyslexia tend to be OCD on things that are wrong. Helps to balance your thoughts. So yeah, I've got, my office is very balanced, left, right, like right down the middle, like everything's kind of the same. Night blindness. Yeah. I don't know exactly what that was, but it was amazing. Yeah. We had, when I was there, we had two students who had their driver's license. So, Zippy wrote, if this works, it works. I have to go out to the woods, stop the noise, just stop. Cones. Yeah. I don't exactly remember. And I mean, there were some different conditions, like I don't know, a student had like a fixed pupil size or some other things. And I mean, those are pretty rare. Those occurrences where, two students can actually go out and get their driving. But yeah, It's a great show though. Listen in. And when I got down there, like I totally expected something, and what I walked into was quite different than that. We love you, Safety Doc. Yeah, that's from Solitude Surfer. Well, thanks, Solitude Surfer. I don't know who the we is, but all right. I get sensory overloaded now and then. This is zippy. I have to learn when I work. I get frustrated to change on something else. Less burnout is good. Yeah. I honestly, for writing about the Taurus and change and routine stuff, I do not, I should say I handle change okay. Like I recognize it, but I like a Taurus, right? Like, so if my microwave just died, and the goofy thing is when you open up the door, it runs. So, and I looked and then the sensors are gone. So you open, it's like, well, God, like my daughter had to, when I shut the thing, like it's radiating the whole house. But I'm like, I got to get that replaced. Just done with this. I cannot deal with this. It's got to be like fixed. Got to have that piece in there. I paid my barber for a haircut with one of those monitors. Good deal. From Bullrush. Zippy, go outside with the dogs. It's quiet. Decompress. You bet. It's a good time. Who needs cash? Bartering all the way. So, yeah. Testimonial from Phil. And then I'm not sure what the testimonial is, but it's Phil Henry. So jealous. She's a suspect. Keep an eye on her. Oh, my goodness. Carl, weather here is humid, hot or buggy or cold. Not a lot of nice days. Phil, the first book is awesome in many fields, security, psychology, industry, in the world. So School of Affairs. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that very much. And the way that you've incorporated and shared that into your work. So that means a lot to me. Jim, I'm a former Marine. We are the guys you call last and wish you had called first. Absolutely. Thank you for your service, Jim. We get stuff done. All right. Keeping the family show here. But yeah, thanks. We hate our methods, but we are effective. Yeah. Beautiful. And Jasmine Patrick. So if you're new, Jasmine, please subscribe to the show. And for those of you, I'm going to do the thing right here, the banner. Yep. If you can subscribe, do a thumbs up or 21 thumbs up. If you post questions down below, yes, I will. If you post questions down below, I will respond to those. And let me go over to, here just a second. So this might work. There's definitely a slim chance this will work. My Google Drive has not been syncing, which sucks. I do not like that at all. So, okay, so I'm going to try something here, folks. So I am going to, you should be able to see the background for the upcoming show, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so that is the background Monday night it's a pre-recorded show. It's a premiere, but I will be live in the chat. It is 60 minutes long, and so when you look at this image, let me put it up one more time. So there's three people. One is me, and then in the middle is my friend Dave, who. So we all worked at the school for the blind. I was director of rehab. Dave was in outreach services, kind of with helping districts, and Tim in the orange shirt was the math teacher. All great guys. I got email from Dave and Tim, I think like a day ago. Dave is completely blind, has been, I think, blind since birth. And so the three of us, we were participating in the staff versus students goal ball competition. So goal ball, we have I talk about it when I have the show Monday night, what goal ball is, but it's a sport. One of the sports played by students who are visually impaired. And so in staff versus students, so this like gets varsity level, right? So like this, the students would just unload and just hammer the staff at this. So, um, but it was pretty, it was a good time. Like it was a great time. And so you put on this protective padding and stuff over your face because this ball they throw is like pretty hard. It's a very dense rubber ball with a bell inside. Actually, like if it hits you, it could like in the face and stuff. You got to wear protective things. It could ding you up. Um, but we were in the gear, and I'll put this image back up as this cover on the right, so you can see the three of us in this. So let me do. Okay. So yeah. So there was and that the gym is round and it has a track up above, but the gym is completely round. So it's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, who would have thought? Um, so everybody, thank you so much for um, being a part of Face Validity Friday. So we had 5 articles. We went through the first one. BREITBART, a poll, 75% of small businesses pounded by supply chain and crisis and inflation for face validity. We said kind of. It's also, though, missing in here not only supply chain, which Robert told us, like, it's hard to get oil filters. Um, he, but where he works, it is his car place, but also saying, people just aren't out there to work, so you're not getting the people. And then Yahoo News, Switzerland approved a assisted suicide capsule that is 3D printed. It's a capsule you get inside of, and it fills up with nitrogen and kills you. So it was very objective. So, but then as we're thinking about that, is this something just to start to normalize this for people? And is this if you're facing some end of life imminent condition, or could it be someone who's 25 who says, I just don't want to live anymore? So, yeah, what is happening with that, and kind of the way that was put out there, of kind of just this blunt article. JonathanTurley.org, the Loki Effect. The Norse god of Loki is who always causes mischief, so you just blame things on the Loki. The Loki Effect, how crime became the latest crisis blamed on the pandemic. Just blaming things on the pandemic. Inflation is up. The supply chain and people are breaking into things or whatever. It's because of the pandemic. It's just, and the pandemic becomes the Loki, and the pandemic is a strong, it can't fight back, right? The pandemic's not going to take out an editorial. The pandemic's not going to come on my show and say, I'm getting blamed for all this stuff. Come on. And then Neon Nettle, that was our fourth one, neonnettle.com. D.C. District of Columbia Authorities Offer Advice to Avoid Carjacking. Give up your car. Advice like, hey, like drive in the center lane and, park where it's well lit. I mean, stating the obvious, and face validity on an article like that in that DC authority stuff is just ridiculous. It's like, why? What are the measures that are being done to increase safety versus you just, basically like, hey, just give up. It's just a car, right? And then we got into some deeper discussion with face validity of saying, there's things to this where people are going to have a different business model. Maybe fuel's going to be delivered to your home as an option with a surcharge, right? Or to a location which is a secured location that you're going to fuel up. I mean, who knows? And then finally, Fox News, Governor Newsom leaves California mid-crisis, and he does that for his book tour. And at face validity, right, we look at that and say, this is garbage. Like, you are leaving to escape. Yeah, instead of doing your job, you could put there's nothing pressing for you to do your children's book tour right now, as there's, everything and murders happening and kids getting killed in LA. It's absolutely ridiculous, but no one's holding you accountable. Right. So, it's face validity, it's leadership just leaving, and just garbage. So, the final things, if it fails, you get a case of the bends where you wish you had died. Sounds great. Okay. So, well, everybody, hey, thank you so much. And I need to go microwave shopping today. So, yes, damn microwave. I'll tell you, I never, we also pulled out our fridge and uh, our oven range to clean underneath them because we hadn't done that for a while. That was a mess. But I never, ever, ever had a microwave where you open the door and it would start up. And the first time it happened, I'm like, oh, something just weird is it stuck or whatever. And then it happens again and again. I'm like, well, is this? Can't have this happen. And then I'm going in the book and I'm going online and then I'm like, yeah, it was common. Like it was easy to find like when they get to a certain age. And then they're like, you can replace these things, but right now it's hard to get the parts for it. And then like if you don't discharge the capacitor, like you get a big shock. And like the microwave also had an incident about a year ago where it tried to microwave itself and it started to melt the inside of itself. And just it was weird. It only happened one time, but so I'm like the microwave itself is kind of giving off bad indicators right now. And I'm like, well, and it's not new. That's been there. I think it was 2009. I looked is when we got it. It's a built-in above the range. So, you know, it's just not worth doing anything. But yeah, the microwave is kind of seeking that assisted suicide 3D printed chamber right now. It's giving a lot of indicators that it just doesn't want to be around anymore. So yeah, Zippy saying is a bad. So yeah, obviously there's and for the price of a microwave, I'm not gonna mess with it. And the microwave already again had tried to consume itself, tried to nuke itself, and did some damage. So, yeah, the thing is, like Jim, though, like we don't really have a local repair shop, and I mean it's permanent, it's mounted, right? So I'm not going to take it out, and then there just isn't any. Then a service call, they're like it's $75 plus whatever. I'm like, well, a new microwave is like $300-400 a built-in, and so by the time you do this and parts, I did check, and there was no, you couldn't get anybody, and then they're saying we'd have to order the parts for it, or we have to do. I'm like, screw it, like it's just not worth it. Now the one thing they did say is if it's a refrigerator, try to go the extra mile in keeping your refrigerator going, because there's a definite loss of quality in refrigerators in the last 10 years. They're like, so one of the repair guys said, he's like, my fridge is 2004 and I would like just keep working on that thing forever, because like the new ones just do not last and are not built that way. So yeah, so Jim, microwaves are bad. We don't use it a lot either. So yeah. But anyway, the microwave's got to come out. So consume themselves by design. Yeah. That was a weird day. So when the microwave nuked itself. I used to have one of those big Amana radar ranges, which weighed, like 100 pounds and took up half your counter space when I was in college. Holy smokes. Probably like a 1980 version. Worked well. Mr. McKay voice, microwaves are bad. McKay? I'm not doing that well, but that's from South Park, right? Jim Ackner, cell phones are worse. So yeah. So anyway, and the thing is, like, we have all the stainless steel appliances. We bought all the stainless steel appliances at the same time. Everything else is holding up well. So we just have to get something that kind of matches. Eventually, that whole kitchen area is going to be redone eventually. And then it'll all kind of match for a while. But right now, yeah, the microwave has given up the ghost. Well, technically, it still works if you open it and you quickly put something in it and then hit off. It'll shut off, and then you can like put in whatever minutes you want it, and then you have to like do this like quick maneuver to get it in and out while it's still like nuking. But I know that's just not a good model unless you're like Randy Marsh on South Park. Panasonic wave inverters are good 10 years or more. So yeah. So anyway, that's damn disappointing on a microwave. So I thought I was just like, Yeah, that's the kind of thing people call ghost hunters, or do something on, and or a poltergeist activity. Look at this. No, it's bad sensor. There's like 3 sensors on it too, and I was doing a little bit of research again, talking to one of the repair guys. He's like, he's like, dude, like for $300-400, like just get a new one at this point, because you said it already has turned on itself and nuked part of it, and with the time, we'd have to put. And even if we could get the parts right now, unless it's absolutely has to be there to match everything else, or it's like a special design. It's like, no, it's like the same width as like the new ones. So like just to pull it out and put it back in isn't that big of a deal. The Wi-Fi, the cell phones, microwave, that can all kill you via cancer, some other weird malady, Jim. Yeah, jeepers. Who knows? Just crazy. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the thumbs up. Monday night, 8:15 is the safety doc, and that's the one there with my experiences at the School for the Blind. And you're going to the top 10 things, and it's an entertaining show. That's a tight one of 60 minutes, and then I'll be in the chat. And then I need to have some of you guys on the show too, so I need to be setting that up good. So everything will kill you at some point. Yeah, so right, just kind of the way it is. But with that said, everybody stay well. And April 11th, my book, it was going to be April 15th, which I thought was weird because April 15th is a Friday, and it's also tax day. I don't know. So I thought they had something in mind of like some marketing with tax day, but why would you release a book on a Friday? And then it got switched to the 11th, which is a Monday, which makes a lot more sense. So I haven't seen the final proof though, or like the proof. And then I have to go through and finalize the proof and make a few changes and things like that. And that should be any day. And then it's a lot of work for me, because when I get that, I have to go line by line, and I do have some things already that I need to change. I just, at that point, they'll only let you change like things in line. Like if there's a number or figure, or someone says, hey, it wasn't vegetables, it was fruits, or it wasn't a cocktail, it was whatever, or it's not crack board, it's cracked board. I mean, those things I've got a list I got to change, and then whatever the hell they put together, they'll have a list and they'll say like, look at this, or look at these citations, or so then it's like finally done when it gets to that level. But we're not on the same page, right, for publishing with how many pages the book will be, because I have it calculated out. I know the number of words. I know School of Errors, how many, 204. And I'm like, well, this is 6,000 more words, 17 more figures. Like, this book will be longer. And they're like, nope, it's going to be the same length. I'm like, nah. And you got the same font size? Yeah. I'm like, that can't be right. So we'll see when it comes out. Well, we'll see what it looks like on first proof. I'm like, you bet. So yeah, microwaves, we don't use them a lot, right? But yeah, and of course, like we've all got the Wi-Fi's, and these people use these Wi-Fi enhancers, and all of that type of stuff, all the cables, and I mean, who knows? But yeah, Jim, well, I'll take the shielding out the microwave. It will fry you a bit and all. So yeah, and that's why like these microwaves are designed with these safety features to not run. So things got to be taken. Things got to be fixed. I mean, replaced. But so that sucks. But smoke will kill you. Wood stove, no, buddy, no, Zippy. I heat my house with wood. Come on, don't say that. So, wood stove, man. Now I'm in trouble. Say, yeah, the Amana radar range. So that thing was like a small nuclear power plant. You just had to know every time you fire that thing up, you're like, I don't know, man. Even though I'm like in a different room, I'm not sure. So that thing would change like the magnetic poles, but it was pretty crazy. Well, Jim, Zippy, Bull Rush, all of you guys here, Carl, Jasmine, thank you, thank you, thank you. Phil, so much for being in this. And I am wrapping it up here for the day. And everybody have a great Friday, Monday night, 8:15 Central Time on on the safety doc. We've got our premiere 1 hour. I'm going to be in the chat, and it's a good one coming up. So, all right, everybody, take care. And whoa, I got to do this. Dun, 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 dun. Wait a second. All right, take care, everybody.